I think this horse could possibly be like the successor for Royal Pagaille. Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. We are back on the sofas to talk all things National Hunt Racing. We've had the Cheltenham December meeting and a few interesting clues over the weekend, as well as we are going to look forward to the Long Walk Hurdle meeting at Ascot, mainly previewing that race, but also we'll have a few best bets for you later on. So if you do enjoy this, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do get your comments down below. How was the Cheltenham December meeting for you? The first meeting you've not been this year.
Yeah, a bit disappointing. I was planning to potentially go up on the Saturday, ended up not in the end, but still good to watch. Still excellent racing. I thought the Friday card especially very informative, with some good horses on show as well. It felt like a better December meeting than perhaps we're used to.
Yeah, I think the crowds and stuff were a little bit down, which is obviously slightly disappointing, but maybe going into the meeting I wasn't as excited as what I was coming out of it in a weird way.
Yeah, I think a few of the races on paper I wasn't sure what they'd end up kind of providing, but when it came down to it, there were some good horses there.
Well, we are going to look in detail with a few of the horses that were impressed, may have disappointed as well, over those few days. The first of which we're going to start is Country Mile, who won on paper. It looked a relatively hot race, didn't it? With That's Nice of Nicky Henderson. Gordon Elliott had a very good one in there, who'd been relatively impressive over further distances, dropped down to 2. Country Mile, do you think this was just a case of a very good ride?
Yeah, I think so. The fact that he sat still on him at the top of the hill, obviously Palacio's a hard horse to get a gauge on. He didn't come back at Chepstow, so I could understand why Sam Ewing and Nico de Boinville weren't particularly adamant about letting him just go out in front by so far. But in the end, have they almost done their running too soon and it's fallen in Country Mile's lap?
I think it was interesting. There was a point in the race at the top of the hill where they've gone so quick in front, and I think Nico de Boinville and Sam Ewing were keen not to let the Sam Thomas horse go out too far in front on his own, and they were niggling at the top, and Harry Skelton just sat still. Yeah. He knew that they'd gone too quick. I think it was a very, very good judgment of pace.
He's a different man this season, Skelton.
Do you know why? It's because he's riding everything to finish well.
Yes.
And if he's on the best horse, he's normally on the bridle jumping the last.
Yes.
But I think a couple of years ago, I think he'd probably concede himself. He probably went a bit too soon on multiple occasions. Whether now he just seems like it's almost the other way around. If he's getting beat, it's because he went slightly too late.
Yeah, like you would have loved him to have been riding like this when he was riding third time lucky in a county hurdle rather than kicking on at the top of the hill. But no, I'm not so sure what the form of that race will actually become. I think the 4 horses are good horses, but I wouldn't necessarily trust that they'll be that way round all the time.
They're talking about Gordon Elliott's horse as a possible Martin Pipe. I
think it needs to go right-handed desperately. Like it was hanging out to its right all the way round, jumping to its right. It corrects to its right when it's wrong. Like, I know it needs to step up and trip, but I don't think it's going to be left-handed. Dan and Harry Skelton afterwards were very, very quick to cool the jets and cool the hype, because I think there was lots of people, and it's naturally, I think when a horse bolts up by 10 lengths, 15 lengths at Cheltenham on the bridle, you probably instantly think of the festival. But I don't think he's there yet. They've always seen him as a bit of a baby, slow maturing horse. They think a lot of him. They did think a lot of him at the start of the season. He was one of the horses to follow on the channel, which is wonderful. But I suspect they could follow a MAJBOROUGH route. I think they see his future maybe up in trip. I think they'll go slowly, maybe to Kelso, maybe to Aintree for the 2.5 mile Grade 1. I think he'd have a big chance in a race like that. Yeah, no, it seems to be. They keep going on about his mentality, and I suppose at Haydock when he got beaten, he showed a little bit of inexperience with his jumping. I think it will be softly.
Absolutely. One horse who was so impressive on Chasing Debut, and the decision to run him in a 2.5 mile Cheltenham Novices Chase on Chasing Debut was a bold one. Against horses who have won, Springwell Bay was in there, Colwell Potter, who probably looks a little bit expensive at this moment in time after that run, was in there. Django Bai was awesome.
He was absolutely superb. Nicky's done this a few times this season now, which wouldn't usually be his want, to have these horses making their Chasing Debut at Cheltenham, but this horse was really good, and I had went into the race with my doubts, actually, on the horse. Now, I think looking back at the Aintree run, I kind of almost forgot how badly hampered he was before flying home. And I think on face value, being beaten in a handicap hurdle, you're there going, well, how good is a horse is he going to be? This is a proper graded horse. This.
Yeah, I agree. And to be fair, you only have to go back to the likes of maybe not so much Whisper, but Might Bite was a handicap hurdler before he went on one Grade 1 chase. I'm not saying he's going to be up to that, but he's the only issue I think Henderson's got slightly is what do you do with him? Because he would have been the perfect 2.5 mile Grade 1 horse at Cheltenham because he's quite keen. Would he get away with that over 3 on tricky ground? You suspect it'd be difficult. Is he quite quick enough over 2? His jumping certainly was quick enough over 2, but is he going to be good enough to beat even a stablemate in Sergino if he was to be a good jumper in an Arkle, Le de Sud, the Irish horses, which we'll get onto later? What do they do with him? Aintree?
Yeah, I think they have to. Yeah, would he end up running at Sandown in the Scilly Isles? You know, I suppose there's still a programme there for 2.5 mile Grade 1 novices. It just doesn't involve Cheltenham.
No, but and I think it's not really understood. But the 2.5 mile novice handicap is open. So any horse can run in it as long as it's a novice. It could be rated 170 and run in it.
Yeah, but is it really like if he was a Paul Nicholls horse, I'd say maybe he would run in it. But Nicky Henderson isn't going to run him off 150 something.
No, that's true. But he was awesome, so quick from A to B, and very, very impressed. I definitely was. The cross country race came next, and we were possibly hoping for a Sweet David 2.0 with the French horse. Wasn't to be. Unseated pretty early on. What did you make of the race with Stumptown going and winning?
Well, Stumptown seems to be a completely new horse these days. He loves
the banks.
He does, yeah. But he went a bit mulish for a while there because I loved Stumptown, and then he got beaten in the Kim Muir by a whisker. And then last year he kind of sacked it in. Really, he didn't seem to like big fields, regulation fence. Just got soured. It's one of those classic ones of he's gone over the banks and he's suddenly kind of enjoying himself again. I don't know, like everyone seems to wet themselves at these sort of Keith Donoghue rides. They're not for me, personally.
Go and win your race.
Well,
if you get beat, it's a bit of a tricky one.
I must say, now, maybe he did. He was looking at the screen. There is a big screen at the top of the straight at Cheltenham, but it looked to me like he absolutely crapped himself when he saw Mr. Coffee. Now, luckily, it was Mr. Coffee, so therefore he didn't have to do a whole pile to end up going and beating him again.
Mr. Coffee finished second in a King's Stand or a Grand National, which is one of those horses, isn't it?
The poor horse.
Loves finishing second.
He loves the game.
Yeah.
But he gives himself so much like to make up. He goes and out the back of the television and then must go in his brain, oh, I can't win from here? Let's go.
Yeah. I thought there was an interesting eye catcher, and I'm possibly scratching the surface with this one because he was beaten 30 lengths. But just thinking about March, I think that it's clear to see that Fakir Duderie, looking at his form, was a Grade 1 horse. I think he would have been a real contender in the Cheltenham race if it wasn't a handicap at the back end of the season. I think Connections have probably looked at that and gone, right, we need to get his handicap mark down. He ran, was never put in the race, stone last the whole way, widest of them all the whole way. And I just thought, if you look at the head-on, he was quite eye-catching coming up the straight. I think he must have been 20, 30 lengths down on the likes of Delta Work and Cocoa Beach, turning for home. I only finished a couple of lengths behind them, passing horses. I think he's just one that, if Fakir Duderie was to go and win a cross-country chase off a high 140s mark, would you be massively surprised? He's only got a mark in the mid-150s at the moment. It wouldn't take an awful lot to get him down to a really winnable mark, and they clearly think he's going to stay. I think he's probably going to be aimed at a Grand National or something like that, whether he's going to be one of 8 JP McManus horses that goes to the race. I just think he was of note, and on the head-on, which I'm going to put on screen now, I thought he was quite interesting.
Yep, I can see that. It didn't spring off the page to me on first look, but he did make some progress. I didn't look at that race, and I wasn't having many fears about my Sweet David bet just yet.
No, I definitely think he leads the way at this point, especially as it's a handicap. We will get on to Irish horses who ran on Friday in a sweet while, but before then we are going to stick with Cheltenham. Lavender Hill Mob was the short price. Well, it opened up a short price for the juvenile contest. I think Gavin Cromwell's Total Look eventually went off favourite. Now, okay, this might just be me getting carried away and me reading into James Owen's comments too much.
That wouldn't be like you.
Wouldn't be like me. But after East India Dock won, he said, we've got a better one at home, Lavender Hill Mob. Do you think there is a world where after those comments he kicked himself a bit and went, why did I say that? Because we've got the Triumph Hurdle 5-1 favourite. Nothing's really come out.
Nope.
Willie de Hugh was slightly disappointing.
Yeah, very.
Something obviously will come out of that Leopardstown race, the Grade 2 at Christmas, but at the moment he leads the way quite comfortably. Maybe he went, what's the point in having one better at home and running in the same race in a Triumph when I've possibly got the Triumph Hurdle winner already? So, cunning plan, let's try and get him a mark for the Boodles. If that's the case, they're doing a good job. Or is he just shite?
I think it's the latter, if I'm being honest. I didn't like it at all. They're putting cheek pieces on him. I was talking about it on the Friday Club last week with Tom, and I was wondering why on earth they were putting cheek pieces on so early. Clearly, they have issues with how he jumped at Newcastle, which is pretty plain to see. I thought it was just a bit of a whimperish type of run. Like, it wasn't much in it. I didn't think it was a brilliant race.
The Cromwell horse would have definitely won if he jumped better.
You'd have thought so, yeah. He jumped poorly.
2 Out was absolutely went through it.
Yeah, and then even it was a bit sticky at the last. Quantock Hills is a grand horse, Terra Firma is a grand horse, but they're no world beaters. Both of them will probably be back there in March for the Boodles. The types of horses that will end up though being up the top of the weights in the Boodles, and I just can't see them actually landing any type of blow.
No. Any chance Lavender Hill Mob's going down that route?
Oh, I think there's every chance he goes down that route. I'm just not going to be parting with my own hard-earns.
No, maybe not. But it would be one of those really annoying situations where if he was to go and absolutely gag up in the Boodles,
it'd be a bit Lark.
James Owen told us in November that he's that good.
It's very much like the Lark in the Morning situation last year, where I think everyone cottoned on that he was the Boodles horse in November, and by the time it got to March, nobody actually was on him.
Yeah,
and then he won by 5 lengths, and everyone was, for goodness sake, he was the first horse we saw all year.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I'd probably be in the camp as well that he might just not be quite up to it. A Peaky Boy was beaten by Emma Lavell's horse, Houghton Color. Rebecca Curtis.
Yeah.
Is he possibly an Ultima horse, Peaky Boy, and the winner?
Yeah, I'd say Haiti Calor is probably more of a Welsh national, 3-5, big staying horse. He's a really nice horse, I think. Jumps for fun as well. Sean Bone gave him a cracking ride. Biggie Boy, yeah, I could see him running in an Ultima. He's getting a nice bit of experience was good in a novice handicap, so showed that he can run in these kind of 10, 12 runner fields. I know the Ultima's a 20 runner race usually, but I wouldn't be giving up on him just yet. I thought he was perhaps ridden a little bit to get the trip. Did he conclusively get the trip? I'm not sure. Probably a little bit 50-50. You'd want to maybe see him over 3 miles again. But no, I could see that.
We haven't talked about the big race, the December Gold Cup, but I wanted to include that in the next section, which is going to be called Dan Skelton's Grand Annual Fun, Seasonal Fun. Surely he's lining up like 5 for this. And I say that because I think Majra will probably eventually run in the 2.5 mile handicap at the festival, but he's got so many possibles for the 2 mile race. Unexpected Parties slowly working down to the mark that he won the race off last year. He's not far away at all. Etalon, never put in the race.
No, not at all. This is it's just plain to see. They'll make it out that there's some issue with the horse. That it'll be the ulcers are back, or there'll be something issue with his spine that's helping him not jump.
When he went on a run last year, they were massively contemplating running him in the Arkle, and they didn't, and they ran him at Aintree. But they ran him in a Grade 1 at Aintree. They thought that the world of this horse, and now suddenly, do you think there's a chance because he didn't win at Aintree? I think he was beaten 11 lengths. Do you reckon they're looking at that and going, you know what, this horse isn't going to win a champion chase, so what can we win?
No, I think it's exactly what they're doing, and the fact that they're even now getting Cheltenham experience into the horse, I think is very telling. I suppose he hasn't gone round and won at Cheltenham, so you wouldn't know. A lot of some of his form has been on flatter tracks, but yeah, I don't know. This horse, they're just screwing around with it. And to be honest, I know me and you were very snippy about Ladan. You've got to play the game sometimes, and Skelton is showing to these English trainers how to play the game, how to beat the Irish at their own stuff.
It's impressive, and it's some of it you might say is plain to see. Whether Ladan is simply just not as good of a horse in the winter than he is in the spring, we're yet to really know.
No,
but Dan, I've had a few conversations with people going, "Oh, Dan's going off way too quickly in this championship. Like he's running everything. They'll all stop." But I don't think that's going to be the case because he's clearly got plans for horses later down the line in the spring when he needs the winners.
Yeah, I just found it. He was talking about a horse the other day. I think he was at Warwick. And it wasn't one of the all-time greats horses. But he had a race mapped out in Ayr or Perth in April. I was like, really? Like, I think he's just showing them, like the likes of Gordon Elliott and stuff like that have been doing this for 10, 15
Massively,
years.
yeah.
And unfortunately, you do have to get to the stage. There's no point having a 145 rated 2-mile chaser and I'm running in the Grand Annual off 145, when you could be running off 135 and winning the race. Like the one that absolutely blew my mind, and he's a very good horse, but that Liberty Hunter won on the weekend. What are they doing winning on the weekend? Winning a Mickey Mouse 20 grand race.
We do condone running to your merits as well, but
No, I do get that, but I don't get horses that are campaigned and they blow their mark winning an ordinary pot when they're clearly, like Liberty Hunter's not far off being a proper Grade 1 horse, and yet they're losing his mark over not winning a big race.
and he's not going to be beating John Bon anytime soon, is he?
No, he's not.
To be fair, I did say this about Sky Pirate when he won. He won at Warwick and had absolutely hacked up at Warwick before he ran in the Grand Annual, and I thought, there's his mark gone. I think I tweeted about it as well. Then he went and won the Grand Annual. So
Yeah, it can happen, but it usually doesn't, and it's just a little bit frustrating because you do have these good horses that are probably being feasibly handicapped by the English assessor at the moment, and they're blowing their marks on ordinary races.
Another Nicky Henderson horse that I thought is of interest and will remain of interest going forward. Ride by Nicky de Boinville came under a bit of scrutiny online. I thought it was slightly unfair. I just think there wasn't much he could do about it. Maybe he was in the wrong position, but once he's in that position, there was
nowhere to go. Yeah.
And that's Joyeuse in the last. I thought she shaped really nicely. She was very, very keen. I didn't think she didn't stay. She hit the line strong. I think there's a world. I know she ran off, was it
119?
119. She'll definitely go up a few pounds for that. She'll probably be low 120s. I still think there's a world where she goes and wins between now and the festival and does go into like a Martin Pipe on a low weight, down the company style. I think that she will be competitive, and I think she'll improve as well with every run.
She's a very well handicapped horse.
She is. She will definitely be winning. Right, going to some of the Irish races before we head to this weekend and have a look at that. We need to talk about earlier on in the week, Dancing City made his chasing debut. Impressed?
Yeah, he was pretty good. He's a workmanlike horse. He was a workmanlike last year over hurdles, but
he reminds me a bit of, and I don't want to say it, and I know he's in the same silks, but like an album photo in the sense of he's never going to look
that flashy.
No,
I can see that. It's hard to know where the limit of his ability is. He's probably an old school 3-mile novice chase horse, in that, like, he's a proper stayer. We're going to have plenty of horses that run in that race that are going to be maybe on the edge of stamina.
Impere purse.
Exactly, horses that would have been running in the 2.5 mile race and having to run in the 3-mile race. The one thing with this horse is he's going to stay all day.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Are you impressed then?
He's a horse that hasn't caught fire for me just yet.
But it has the potential to.
He's a good 7 out of 10.
On the same day we saw Kitsbuul make his Irish racing debut after coming over from France. A 4-year-old for Willie Mullins. Went to the front against decent opposition and looked really good. Yeah,
it did look very good. Beating Colonel Mustard, I suppose, it's hard to rate that form because he's such a consistent, good horse. Who would never win?
Who would win in a race, him or Mr. Coffee? They'd somehow both find a way to get beat, wouldn't they?
They'd both unseat at the last or something. I'd say Colonel Mustard would win by a nose. But very good. Quite similar, I suppose, in a certain extent to Amsterdam, similar type of horse. Didn't really know what to expect. Not massive market confidence behind him, but he was very impressive.
I do think Amsterdam, if either of these two are going to go down a champion hurdle route, it will be him rather than Kitsbuul. I think they'll take a slow time with him. We also saw a few interesting horses in Ireland over the weekend. One being Majborough, the Triumph Hurdle winner, came up against some relatively decent opposition in Asia Master and Tully Hill. He destroyed them.
He did. He was very, very impressive. It's the best novice chasing performance I think we've seen all season.
Should he be shorter than he is for the Arkle?
No, I think he's fair. Because it's a deep race. You wouldn't know who's going to turn up.
Is Ballyburn too short?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say he's a short enough price for what he did on Jay's debut. Going back down to 2 miles. Obviously, he's the one that's still on his novice hurdle stuff, does set the bar, of course.
But the tricky situation with Majborough is he's got the same owners as in the pocket, but he's got the same trainer as Ballyburn. So how do you split him?
Well, with great difficulty.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to have these issues and conundrums. I think they're going to...
Will he be screwing there's not a 2.5 mile grade one?
I'd say he's absolutely peppering up and down.
Because Majborough could just go for the 2 mile race. Ballyburn goes to 2.5.
Yeah. No, I'd say he's absolutely spitting on something back home, thinking, what on earth? They're trying to get him to stop winning races. But he was very, very impressive. Tully Hill and Asian Master, as you say, do bring a fair level of form. He jumped really well, got a great index score on the race IQ, jumping index, which is fantastic. Good signs.
Took off up the straight. I was worried maybe as a juvenile, do you know, because he was so big, whether he'd be a quick course. Because he never really looked a quick course. He looked like a big...
Slowish.
Well, it just, galloper.
Yeah.
But he actually had some turn of foot up the straight.
Yeah, I think it's just because in the Triumph, because Cargie's kind of pulled her way to the front, he probably looked a little bit slow because he took a while to kind of gradually wind her down. But actually, I'd say you'd find that she is quite quick, and he's just quite good.
He's the biggest 4-year-old I've ever seen.
He is enormous. What's your thoughts on In the Pocket, though? Because the only thing I'd say about him, he was very, very good down in Wexford. But one of my big bugbears with racing is horses getting an inflated reputation for not running. And it feels that since Wexford, we have literally not seen him, and yet his reputation has increased.
Do you think he bumped into the best version of Farron Glory that day?
No, not the slow. Farron Glory was like me coming home from the Christmas party. Like, he was absolutely drunk.
So there's question marks about the form. He did it very well. There's no getting away from that. But I'd be siding with Majra at this stage, I think.
Well, I think, there's a little bit of recency bias involved in that. I get that. But
do you think we're going to see them meet before? I doubt it.
No.
How are they going to split them?
I'd say In the Pocket will go to Naas on Lorders and Naas Day. That race has been promoted, I think, to a grade 2 or a grade 3 now. Appreciated won it a couple of years ago. Would Majborough try to find one race between the Irish Arkle and now? Maybe. I don't know where that type of race would be. But
Ballyburn?
I don't know where they'll go with Ballyburn. He'll probably run against In the Pocket, would he not, at Naas?
Yeah, possibly.
Different trainers, different owners.
Yeah. Going to be interesting.
Very, very difficult to know, though. Ballyburn's next run will really frame that market, because I suspect they'll run him over 2 miles or 2 mile 1 somewhere next time out, and it will be a very interesting case to see how quick he is and can he go away with it.
Did we see the bumper winner this weekend, or a spring bumper winner? That includes the DRF or Aintree Mares bumper in Future Prospect. She did so much wrong. In fact, Patrick Mullins could barely control her turning bends, and then got into the straight. Swing Davis came alongside and she just went, Toora, I'm off.
That Swing Davis isn't bad either. No, she's a very, very good mare. You'd say she could take a bit of beating, I'd say, in the mare's bumper, the DRF.
She's going to have to learn a bit, isn't she?
She is. She's not maybe all there upstairs. Interesting, though, Patrick has a pretty decent line going into that mare's bumper, because there's a few horses that he's either just been beaten by or that he's ridden himself for other trainers. Like, I think that Amen Kate, I think, Augusta Kate's daughter for Tom Cooper, will go there, and she's very smart. But Patrick rode it, so he'll know what the sauce is.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how all of that works out. Very briefly, a quick chat about the Christmas Leopardstown entries. We'll be bringing you a Christmas preview. Probably 2, one midway through as well. But Copec de Board entered in the 4-year-old maiden hurdle, the opening contest, which is good.
Very.
A few other interesting entries in there. That they're going to the bumper with Marjax Hill with one of them. I think that ship has sailed, but we're going to see him again.
Is there any prospect of him doing a bit of a Romeo Coolio where he was underwhelming first time out and then he suddenly...
No, there's not. There's not. But I'm looking forward to seeing...
He should win a bumper, though.
Yeah, he should win a bumper, but he won't be winning
a champion bumper.
Or a Leopardstown Christmas bumper. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing Copec de Board. He is in there. It's been a long time waiting for him. In the summer, at the end of summer, I said he's the one horse I'm most excited about this season, and it looks like we're going to see him. And he's entered in the right race.
He is, yeah. Those maiden hurdles at Leopardstown at Christmas, they hit like something different.
They do.
You're turning up. It's 12 o'clock first race. You've consumed 2 or 3 pints beforehand. You're still absolutely
flying.
Flat to the gills from the previous day. Mom's made a lovely Christmas dinner, and then you're watching... Like, I remember,
I'm staying at your house for one night over Christmas.
Yeah.
Do I get Christmas dinner?
Yeah, you
with
won't.
With my second family?
No, you won't, but you will get well looked after, as you often do.
Yeah, I absolutely do. Right, we do need to talk about one big race over the weekend, and that is the Howden Long Walk Hurdle, the Grade 1 contest. We've got a strong leader, the favourite in there. Gordon Elliott's going to bring over the Wool Park in the JP McManus colours. We've got Crambo, possibly Hidden Valley Lake, Shoot First, Blue King, Toora, Toora, Beauport, Ladan, Botox has a few in there at the bottom as well. Kerry Hill, I know a horse that you like a lot.
Strong leader should win the race. It should be that straightforward, but it isn't that straightforward.
Why isn't it?
Because he's just a bit of a leery horse. Like, I really like the horse, and I think he does an awful lot right. And he is that kind of mould of 3 Mile hurdler in terms of it's all a bit slow and cumbersome, but he does get it done.
The Wool Park's interesting, isn't it? Because the way that he progressed would suggest that he's a graded horse. JP McManus has bought him. He's in training with Gordon, who's got the Stayers Hurdle Fav.
Yeah, very hard.
Qualified for the Pertemps. Do you think he's going to run over here maybe a couple of times, get a decent mark, and then go back to the Pertemps final? I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, perhaps so. Like, even looking just at the bare form of that October race as well, it hasn't exactly worked out brilliantly. No. So it's hard. I wouldn't be backing him myself because I wouldn't know what the intentions are. If he was off, he'd probably win this because it's not a brilliant Grade 1.
Yep.
Crambo's grand, Hidden Valley Lake's grand. Like, Kerry Hill's in there at 100 to 1. I don't know whether they'll run or not.
100 to 1. It's a big price.
It's a big price. I've seen worse 100 to 1 shots. I've seen better, but I've seen worse. I'll probably have a couple of quid each way on it.
There we go. So Kerry Hill to run well, and you think Strong Leader should just go and win?
Well, he's the most he's the one horse of that who's a genuine Grade 1 horse on his day. But he is just, I don't know. If he ran 5th, beaten 12 lengths, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah. Yeah,
which just isn't really the kind of vote of confidence you really want.
True, right. It's now time for best bets this weekend, and I've got 4.
Bloody hell.
Oh, I know. Very different from me. I need to. It's about time I start firing some winners. The first one I'm going to back, I think Harry Cobden will ride, is in the 2:30 on Friday at Ascot, and that's Fasol. Yep. Winner waiting to happen massively. The 2:25 on Saturday, the Long Walk Hurdle. I'm going to back Blue King Daru for Harry Cobden as well. 10 to 1. I think this horse is wildly underestimated going into a race like this. Yeah, 12 months ago, he was running in the race, having beaten Strong Leader as a 4-year-old. Another year on his back. I think he's going to appreciate the extra trip. It was a really, really fine return behind Lucky Place, beating Golden Ace in the same race he won last year at Ascot. I think that he's an interesting price at 10 to 1 each way. I think he's definitely got a massive chance, and it's not the strongest race in the world. There's question marks about the form of the Wool Park, Shoot First. Strong Leader is solid enough, but not bomb-proof. Crambo was really disappointing after winning this race last year, so I think that he genuinely has a live chance. I think he's being underestimated, and I tell you what, I cannot wait to see him go chasing. Yeah. Next year when he goes novice chasing, he could well be like a Courto-style horse, that type of horse.
Yeah, I can see that.
In the following race, I really just think Victorino will go and win for Venetia Williams. I think he's 5 to 2. Won the race off 142 last year. Comes in this race off 143, off the back of a really good third in the Coral Gold Cup. I think this horse could possibly be like the successor for Royal Pagaille and be Venetia's top staying chaser. And I think that 143 in a couple of years' time might look pretty lenient.
I can see
Still a young horse, massively improving. And then in the following race, we're having 3 back-to-back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to the well again with Dysart Enos.
Yep.
4 to 1. I think that's a fair price for her. I think she's shaped with lots of encouragement in the Greatwood Hurdle. She travelled the strongest in the race by a country mile. Burdett Road just had a very good ride by Harry Cobden, settled at the front, was the quickest horse, didn't go particularly quick, and then just went and took off. She's not going to have to deal with someone like that. She is going to have to deal with Be Aware again. But I do think there's more improvement possibly coming from her. I think Be Aware, again, a bit like Mr. Coffee and Colonel Mustard, doesn't absolutely love winning, although he's shaped like he's going to very soon.
Yeah. He's a tricky horse to get a handle on.
He is a tricky horse, whether I think Dysart Enos is slightly more straightforward. And I like the fact that Fergal O'Brien is persisting. He has options to go down the mare's route. He's persisting with big handicaps. She's definitely a 2-miler. I think she'll come on for the run massively. I think she took a bit of a blow last time, and I think she's got a massive chance at 4-1. It's a competitive race, but she's not got to deal with Burdett Road because he's going to the Christmas hurdle. So I fancy her to go and win, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And just in relation to what I was saying earlier, it's good to see with Fergal that he's got a well-handicapped mare and he's trying to plunder a 100 grand race, which she should be able to win.
Yeah, I think so.
She should really be able to win. I've got two. One in the bumper at Ascot on Friday, usually a very, very good race to listed bumper. Plenty of decent prospects in there. I'm going to be backing Money Garrow.
Yeah, the Skelton horse. I was there at Chepstow. He was very good.
He was very, very impressive. I know the Skeltons have had a few nice horses this year win bumpers, and some of them win on the bridle, but this horse looks smart to me.
What's the Paul Nicholls horse called in that race?
It is called No Drama This End.
Right, I thought they were going to run Talk to the Man, which is their big talked-up bumper horse this season. Yet to see him.
No talk.
Disappointed.
No talk to the man, I'm afraid. Dr. Blue will be an interesting horse for Sam Thomas. I remember seeing that horse actually when I was there in January when he was still he just turned 4. They quite like him, so he might run well. But I think Money Garrow will take a fair bit of beating. And in the Tommy Whittle at Haydock on Saturday, which is the 2:05, just getting the race timing, I quite like Famous Bridge for Nicky Richards and Sean Quinlan. Won the race last year. Loves Haydock, loves heavy ground, loves 3 miles. Handicap to win. 5 or 6 to 1. I think that's very fair.
There we go. We do hope you have enjoyed this video. A bit more of an in-depth review. There were a couple of comments on the last week's video that were suggesting that we've lost our way, and I feel like we're back with it this week.
That's very good to hear.
We're back. If you agree with us, please hit that like button. Comment your thoughts down below. We want to hear your views. We will be replying to all of them. And do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. Next week we will have a Christmas preview, mainly focusing on the first couple of days at Kempton, at Limerick and at Leopardstown. That will be with you on the 22nd, and then on the 29th we'll have another video for the rest of Christmas. I suppose we're going to have to work out talking about the 28th as well in the first video. Just there we go, LTR meetings with the viewers right now. Required. We do hope you have a brilliant Christmas. If there's the last video that you see of ours before Christmas, I hope that you and the family have a brilliant one. Friends, family, whoever it might be, have a fantastic time. And if you are not with family or friends and you fancy someone to chat to, then do get in touch at the Let's Talk Racing podcast on our socials. We'll be sure to reply. We'll see you soon.